Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next segment of the Cleveland Sports Show. Joining me this week, once again, Nordonia Freshman Logan Purcell. Logan, thank you so much for joining me. Man, it's been a great few preseason games for our Cleveland Cavaliers. They've had almost a 9-month layoff. In fact, more than 9 months, actually, and they have looked strong, especially their draft pick, Isaac Okoro, who really, to me, Logan, has been just as great offensively as he has been defensively. Let's go to the first preseason game this year for the Cavs. They defeated the Indiana Pacers 107-104 with an and one winning conversion to win the game. And who converted that and one? It was rookie Isaac Okoro. In the second game the Cavs had, they got off to a very, very sloppy start against the Pacers, but they ended up winning the game, actually, by double figures. Once again, Isaac Okoro leading the way for Cleveland. He was their third leading scorer in that second matchup at home against the Pacers. 15 points for Okoro in 28 minutes to go along with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. The Cavs defeated Indiana that night 116-106. However, it was a tough night a couple nights ago in New York City. The Cavs blow an 18-point lead at Madison Square Garden this past Wednesday, and they fall to the New York Knicks by a final score of 100-93. Top scorer for the Cavs was actually Andre Drummond, who himself has had a nice preseason as well, Logan. Damian Dotson made his return to New York, finished with 6 points in 26 minutes. Again, Isaac Okoro played once again, double-digit in scoring once again, 10 points for Isaac in 30 minutes to go along with 2 assists. So I know, these preseason games don't really count for a lot in terms of record. They're really more so to just get your feet wet, especially for the Cavs' sake. And Knicks as well. They haven't played in more than 9 months. So to you, Logan, first off, what are your overall thoughts on these Cavs performances? And secondly, what are your thoughts on Isaac Okoro being able to get in the double-digit scoring tally in all 3 of the games they've had so far?
Well, for starters, I think the Cavs, through the first 3 preseason games, have really shown that they could be a contender if they continue to play this well, at least for the playoffs, in my opinion. As for Isaac Okoro, I think he's definitely answered a lot of the questions that I had on him on whether he had the ability to be a scorer and not just a defender. I think his length his length really benefits him as a defender, but he's shown that it can benefit him as a scorer.
Right.
With his ability to cut inside and slice through the defense as well as he has through these past few games. Andre Drummond is another thing that I've really noticed about the Cavs.
Yeah, he's had a strong preseason so far.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I had big questions on him too, on whether he could really be an X factor like he was in Detroit. But he has shown that he could be that guy again. He's just got to continue to improve and play better. And I think that so far the Cavs are off to a really hot start.
How do you feel about them blowing that lead Wednesday night against the Knicks? I know it's a preseason game. And, the Cavs weren't playing their best players. Colin Sexton sat out. Chetty Osman sat out. Kevin Love sat out. Dante Exum also sat out. So, in that game, you really had their top scorer was Andre Drummond with those 18 points, and he only played 21 minutes. So are you concerned about the Cavs blowing that lead, Logan, or just because it's a preseason game and you're not worried about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, on top of the fact that it is a preseason game at the end of the day, they've got preseason for a reason. It's a chance for everybody to warm up themselves and get ready for this kind of stuff and
right.
for this stuff to happen now and not in the regular season. It's also an experiencing kind of time for Isaac Okoro. It's a chance for him to really feel that loss and really understand that that's not what he wants this year. He wants to, go back to his winning ways when he played at Auburn. He wants to, be a contender, and I think that this loss is going to give him that feeling of, let's get after this next one. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah,
but I'm not too concerned just yet.
What are your thoughts on Isaac Okoro? We were talking about a few weeks ago how he's really a defensive specialist, but he's shown up and shown out on the offensive side of the ball as well. Your thoughts on his offensive performances, and do you think he can carry this in the regular season?
So I would really like to see him carry it, but I don't know if I can believe it until I see it. I won't believe it until I see it. If I see him, come out first 2 weeks of the NBA season, and he's around a little over 10 points a game, like he was in college, I'd be mildly impressed. And I wasn't super high on his ability to score the basketball, but I think he's a very elite defender, and I think he's got a chance to be a really elite defender in the NBA. But my new thoughts on it. I see that he has the ability to score the best basketball, but I'm not going to start, shooting coins at him saying, now we're talking about rookie of the year kind of contest. Yeah. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him first.
Right, and especially with guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Obi Toppin, you obviously have Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman as well. So it's definitely going to be tough for Okoro to get in that rookie of the year conversation. One more topic I want to address with the Cavs, Logan, is that you're probably aware of who JJ Redick is, and the elite shooter he is. He actually has his own podcast now on YouTube, and I didn't get a chance to see his video, but I saw in the YouTube in the recommendations link that JJ Redick believes that Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, not the Cavs or the Bulls, but the Atlanta Hawks are going to make the biggest leap in the Eastern Conference this year. So I'm assuming when he means that, he's meaning that the Atlanta Hawks, if you look at all the rebuilding teams in the East, the Atlanta Hawks are going to be the team that makes the biggest leap. And he has a point for sure. They drafted Onyeka Okongwu. They have Danilo Gallinari, Clint Capella, Rajon Rondo's there. They have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's an elite shooter. You obviously have Trae Young, and then the young talent like DeAndre Hunter and John Collins. So, yes, Atlanta does have a quality roster, but to me, Logan, the Cavs roster is right up there. I'm thinking of all this young talent the Cavs have. Now you have Okoro, Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, Larry Nance, Kevin Porter Jr. You have the veteran leadership of Kevin Love. I think the Cavaliers are right there, if not better than the Hawks this year. Do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to make that bigger leap, or do you agree with JJ Redick that it's going to be the Hawks?
Well, this is a very loaded question, considering the fact that you're talking about two completely different systems of offense and defense, because the Cavs have really built their team around being young, athletic, running the floor, and being really deep. But the Hawks, unfortunately, compared to the Cavs, have, in my opinion, that guy that's going to take over the game when you need him to in Trae Young. Now, when it comes to making the leap, I think the Cavs will make the bigger leap this year, just simply because of the fact that they had one of the worst records in the NBA. Not that the Hawks didn't, but I think the Cavs are going to make a little bit bigger of an impact and be a little bit more surprising than the Hawks will. But when it comes to the conversation of having who is going to make the biggest leap in the Eastern Conference, I think it's really difficult to overlook the fact that the 76ers went from being, a semifinal knockout to now possibly, in my opinion, having the chance at the finals now with Doc Rivers as head coach. Yeah,
the 76ers defeated the Celtics 108-99 in the first preseason match between those two. And I'm really interested to see, Danny Green, Seth Curry. Joel Embiid now has shooters around him. So I think that's going to put a lot more pressure on him to get in the low post, get in the paint, and dominate there, because he has the footwork to do so. He has the ability. He just has to, show it and not shoot as much. And I don't think Doc Rivers is going to let him shoot as much. In terms of the Cavs' remaining schedule, they do have one more preseason game. That's tonight at 7:30 p.m. The Cavs are in New York City at Madison Square Garden for a matchup with the Knicks. That's their final preseason game. The regular season for the Cleveland Cavaliers begins at home at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward will be in Cleveland to take on the Cavs for each team's first game of the regular season. First regular season game for each of these teams in over 9 months. LaMelo Ball's first NBA game, regular season NBA game, will be at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland. After that Wednesday matchup, Cavaliers will have their first road game in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena against the Pistons. And a little more NBA news around the NBA other than the Cavs. Logan, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving had their first performance together as Brooklyn Nets. Nets played the Washington Wizards this past Sunday. What Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal didn't play. However, it wasn't a close game in the first half, but Wizards were starting to they closed the gap, and Nets only won this thing by 5. However, the main story was Kevin Durant returning to the NBA. His first NBA game since June 10th, 2019, which was Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Warriors taking on the Raptors that time. But in Sunday night, first performance as a Net, Kevin Durant with 15 points in 24 minutes to go along with 3 assists, 3 rebounds. Kyrie Irving was the leading scorer in the Nets' 119-114 over Washington. He had 18 points in 17 minutes to go along with 4 assists. So, Logan, the big story in this one is Kevin Durant's back. How is he going to mesh with Kyrie Irving and everyone else? And what we saw in the first quarter, Nets outscored Washington 38-20. So I don't think you have to worry about getting points on the board if you're this Nets team. What were your thoughts on Kevin Durant's return to NBA basketball? How did he look to you?
Well, he definitely didn't look 100%.
Yeah.
He didn't look like Kevin Durant. When you think of Kevin Durant, you think of a 7-foot sniper that can, pull up anywhere and just hit a 3 on anyone's head.
I feel like we should have expected that a little bit, though.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. But I was really, I was given a confidence booster with the fact that the Nets were able to take control of that game so early, and I think everyone that knows basketball and knows Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving at any sort of level knows that this team is not going to have any issues at all scoring the basketball, right? But we all know that the defensive side of the basketball might be a bit of an issue. That might come into question later in the season when you start to play these much more elite teams such as like the Lakers and the Clippers and teams like that that have a lot of offensive power. So I'm interested to see where the defensive scheme will come into. But I love the fact that Kyrie and Kevin were both able to get in there and get some buckets in.
Yeah, overall, Nets shot 51% from the field. They shot 47% from three-point range, and they had 41 total rebounds in that one, so they were certainly getting it done on the glass. However, they did have 15 turnovers, though, something Steve Nash is certainly going to want to clean up heading into the regular season. Nets do have one. They're only going to have 2 preseason games in this preseason. They had the one against the Wizards. Tonight they're going to be in Boston for a preseason matchup at TD Garden against the Celtics before they return to Brooklyn for their regular season opener against Golden State. Speaking of Golden State, Logan, right now Warriors have a preseason record of 2-1. They actually finished their preseason yesterday against the Sacramento Kings. So 3 games in the preseason for the Warriors, 2-1 record. And that one loss was a loss to the Kings in Sacramento only by a point. Stephen Curry has looked sharp, and now especially with guys like Andrew Wiggins, you have Kent Bazemore who's back. And we saw the young talent Golden State accumulated last year, and with Steph Curry being the leader that he is, it looks like everything's going well with this Warriors team. Because to me, they got two quality wins. They got one against the Nuggets, who had an amazing story last year with the playoffs, and then they beat the Kings yesterday. They were really controlling that game most of the way. Logan, your thoughts on the Golden State Warriors and their preseason? Do you think that the one half of the Splash Bros duo, Steph and Curry, can really make an impact going into the playoffs for the Warriors? Because now Klay Thompson's not there, and a lot of people are saying, Golden State's going to be fighting for a playoff position. I think they're going to be more of like a 4th or 5th seed. But what do these preseason games show you about the Warriors? Are you confident in them that they can make noise in the West?
Well, and as I've mentioned in a lot of previous episodes, I think any team that has a A-plus caliber player, like a guy like Stephen Curry, you're going to be able to make noise. You have the possibility of making noise. And I think when I look at the Warriors, what it kind of reminds me of is, as I mentioned, to build the system of the Cavs, right?
Right.
They have a lot of really good young pieces, and they're really deep that they aren't used to. If you look at the Warriors in the past, 5 to 6 years, they've been really top heavy. And if you look at the team now, you got a lot of really good B players, Kelly Oubre, a guy like James Wiseman. You've got guys like that are really okay players, but they can get it done. And then you add in a leader and one of the best shooter in NBA history, in Stephen Curry, and I think you've got a team right there that can really put together a good season. So, it's telling me that this team has got a chance to go places. And
Kevon Looney, too, I think is someone as center who can be underrated. He had 7 boards last night, 23 minutes. I just think he's definitely an extra body that the Golden State Warriors are going to need down low in the paint. The Warriors also have Marquise Chris, and in the past, even during their dynasty, Logan, Warriors really struggled to find a quality big man. Andrew Bogut was probably their best one, and remember them having Zaza Pachulia and JaVale McGee, but you never really thought of any of those guys as consistent all-stars. I'm not saying that Marquise Chris and Kevon Looney are going to be all-stars, but I definitely think they're more legitimate centers. I think that they have the size, the strength, and the athletic ability to play the position. Your thoughts on the Golden State Warriors center issues? Do you think they've cleaned those up?
Oh, well, in my opinion, when you use a top 2 pick in the draft on a center, I think you've definitely cleared up that big man position, and especially with a guy like James Wiseman, who's most adept at being able to hit those short range jumpers, able to run the floor like a rim runner. A lot of what you've seen from a guy like Montrezl Harrell in Los Angeles. He's a shorter center, but he can rim run, and I think that's what you're going to see a lot of James Wiseman. I don't think you're going to see a lot of back to basket from him. I think you'll see a lot of fast break from this team because this is a fast and athletic team. Mm-hmm. So I think they have definitely cleaned up that position. I think they've gotten a lot deeper, and I think that they're also going to be able to be a little bit more versatile because, you could play a guy like Marquise Chris at power forward as well.
Right.
And you could go, now they have a big lineup, a solid big lineup, and you don't have to play, you don't have to play a guy like Draymond Green at power forward. You can play him at a 3 position and let him facilitate from there. And I think that they have definitely cleaned up that position as best as they possibly could.
Yeah, certainly interested to see how the Warriors are going to do this year, Logan. Opening night in the regular season is only a few days away. Tuesday, the 22nd of December is when it all begins, ladies and gentlemen. Warriors will be in Brooklyn taking on the Nets, and then the Clippers will be going up against the Lakers at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, the Battle of LA from Staples Center. But first, it'll be Warriors taking on the Nets. Logan, your predictions for opening night. I'll start with Warriors-Nets. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'd really like to see it. I think that game is going to come down to the wire. But because, you got a team that's, like I mentioned, really deep, and they have that A-guy player in Stephen Curry. I think it's going to be a really tight game to the end. But I think the star power of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is just going to overpower this team. I just don't think that they have the kind of defensive power to guard a guy like Kyrie. And then also consider, I expect to see a lot of pick and pop and pick and roll with Kevin Durant and Kyrie involved. So I expect the Nets win by about 10.
Okay, interesting. How about Clippers-Lakers? This is going to be technically a Lakers home game, by the way.
Yeah, so for that game, I'm going to predict I think LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to continue to come out, and they're going to do business. I think I'm expecting a blowout for the Lakers. I think that Kawhi and Paul George have been waiting, and I think they got a little bit too ahead of themselves in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I know, and especially considering the fact that they were able to get the 6th man of the year in Montrezl Harrell, I think that's going to have a lot of depth to their team. So I don't like the Clippers' chances in this one. I'm going to take the Lakers in a blowout.
Yeah, I love the addition of Montrezl Harrell to the Lakers. He actually took a pay cut to join them, which shows you how desperately he wanted to join them. We're looking on the other side of things, Logan, with the LA Clippers. Do you think they obviously lost Montrezl Harrell? Doc Rivers is gone. Do you think the Clippers have regressed? Because, yes, they have Serge Ibaka, but Serge Ibaka is not the defensive presence that Montrezl Harrell can be. Kawhi Leonard's going to be a free agent next year. He still hasn't re-signed with them. Paul George signed an extension, so he's going to be there long term. But to me, it just seems like the Lakers are even better than they were last year, and the Clippers, if they haven't gotten worse, they've stayed the same to me. So, what are your thoughts on the Clippers, and do you think that they've regressed?
Yeah, I think to an extent they have regressed. I mean, you heard me mention earlier how I think the Sixers have a great chance to make a big impact in the East now with Doc Rivers, and it would make no sense for me to say that they haven't regressed after losing an all-time great Doc Rivers.
Right.
So when it comes to system building, I think that is a huge loss. But I think just as much as important as that is, a guy like Montrezl Harrell. We've talked about him, and we've talked about how great of a player he has a chance to be and how good he is already. And, when you lose that, you not only, lose a great player, but you lose depth.
Mm-hmm.
And very similar to the Warriors, they don't have a lot of that. They don't have a great center. They have Zubac.
Yeah.
So that's about, if you think about it, that's about the extent of it. They don't have anybody else that can really, be a starting caliber center.
And I think Zubac is going to have it. I think Zubac is going to have a rough time down there. Yes, he's big, but there are a lot of elite centers in the NBA who I think are going to have their way with him. So I think that's going to be a big question mark for the Clippers for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be an interesting season, but I don't like the Clippers' chances this year. I don't have them making it past the semis.
Yeah, I certainly think the rivalry between the Clippers and Lakers, it was so tight last year. We were so excited to see their matchups, but I think the Lakers have definitely taken the upper hand this year, widening that gap. So that concludes our NBA talk, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, Cavs tonight at 7:30 going up against the Knicks, and then their regular season will begin at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, December 23rd. So make sure you mark your calendars. Hornets will be in Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for a matchup with the Cavs. And going back to Cleveland sports, Logan, man, if you could describe the Browns game this past Monday in one word, I feel like heartbreak would be a good one to describe this. But if you love offense, this was your game to watch on Monday Night Football. The Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens faced off this past Monday at First Energy Stadium, and each team scored in every quarter. It was a fun game to watch. Lamar Jackson, one touchdown for him, had that running touchdown. Baker Mayfield, 2 touchdowns, however, 1 interception. Let's go to the box score here, Logan. Tie game after one quarter, 7-7. Baltimore scored 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, 14-7 score for Baltimore in that second quarter. So they go up. So they go to the halftime break up by 7. Baltimore extends their lead 13-6. It was that third quarter score. Browns, we talk about how great their offense is, and that was the case in that fourth quarter. 22 points alone in the fourth quarter. The Browns only had 20 points through 3 quarters, and they scored more points in that fourth quarter than they did for the other 3 quarters, but it just wasn't enough. And Lamar Jackson was having some cramp issues, but he went back to the locker room, actually, came back out, delivered for Baltimore, and gave them their 8th win of the season. This was the 4th loss of the season for the Browns, their 2nd loss at home. Logan, there's so many storylines from this game. What stands out to you the most from this Monday night matchup?
Well, for me, again, same with the NBA, a lot of questions were answered.
Yeah.
I think it's time that I and everyone else that disrespects him starts putting some respect on Baker Mayfield's name. I think this guy has really stepped up and shown that he's got that X factor ability to really be a great quarterback in the NFL. I always thought he was going to have to rely on the running game, but you look at the numbers. This guy really played a good, conservative, but also a really impressive football game. As for the defense, the questions continue. I mean, they give up 47 points to a relatively, as of recently, stagnant offense.
Yeah.
That hasn't been able to put up big numbers like they were last year. And, that really concerns me going into the playoffs, because this is definitely, because of this loss, this could definitely be a team we see in the future in a possible wild card matchup or a divisional matchup, depending on where everything goes. But I think wasn't impressed by Lamar Jackson. I think he played a very good game, but it's the kind of numbers you expect from a guy like Lamar Jackson. But
yeah.
I think the story here has got to go to Baker Mayfield, but the defense has got to get better.
Yeah, what really surprised me about this game, Logan, was that, you were talking about that running game. Baltimore relies on Lamar Jackson running the ball so much. I mean, he practically has to run the ball for them to have any shot of being successful. And I just don't see this is definitely a tough loss for the Browns, but I just don't see how Baltimore is going to do anything in the playoffs because you're going to be playing more elite teams defensively, and they're going to know how to stop Lamar Jackson from running the football. So unless Lamar Jackson magically, gets some fairy dust on him and becomes the next Tom Brady, I just don't see the Ravens doing anything special in the playoffs. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree, but after the first season we saw from Patrick Mahomes, I was a huge believer in, hey, now we've got film on him. Now we know how he's going to play. We know what he likes to do,
Right.
Now it should be easier to stop him, He threw 27 touchdowns last year. He also won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So to an extent, I completely agree with you there. But at the same time, when it comes to being great, there's not a whole lot you can do to stop him. So if Lamar can pick up and play like Lamar did last year, I mean, I can see them making a little bit of noise. But when it comes to playing the Browns, if they ever have to go against them in these playoffs this upcoming season, I'm concerned. But I can see them making a little bit of noise. I definitely don't see them getting past the divisional. Mm-hmm. But I can see them winning maybe the wild card game.
And let's go to the Browns side of things, Logan. We mentioned how they had an amazing offensive performance in that fourth quarter, but they still held Baltimore still scored 13 points of their own. Logan, were you more impressed with the Browns' offense, or were you more disappointed in their defense?
I was definitely more disappointed in their defense, and my reasoning behind this is, you think back to the game against the Titans. Throughout the course of the season, throughout the first half of the season, the Titans have been a relatively, good defense. They hadn't been elite, but they definitely had been far from pedestrian.
Right.
And the Browns to put up 41 on them, 28 in the first half, 31 in the first half, 38, something like that in the first half.
Yeah.
To me, is just insane. And, at this point, since then, once as I mentioned earlier, I'll see it, I'll believe it when I see it. And I saw it from them. So now these are the kind of numbers that I expect them to put up. Maybe not exactly, but I expect them to put up good numbers every week. And, so this wasn't a huge surprise. The Baltimore defense isn't very good. But so I definitely had to lean towards being disappointed with the defense because I really did think that this was the chance for the Browns defense to show that it wasn't full offense and they weren't a complete joke. Because it's the defense is getting a little out of hand. If they lose, if you notice, it's the defense.
Yeah.
So Baker's got to change. Baker's been getting it done late in the game, but the defense they've got to get stops.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised how clutch Baker has been. We were on him so much at the beginning of the season, with all those interceptions, and some people were saying, give up on Baker Mayfield, but especially these last few games, he's been, I guess I would describe it, clutch. He's shown up in, at the end of games, ready to go. That it really started when I don't know if you remember, Logan, but that game against Cincinnati, where he threw that long touchdown pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones, that kind of, to me, started off a streak of Baker Mayfield being ready and showing up in the clutch. Your thoughts on that? Would you describe Baker Mayfield as like a clutch quarterback right now?
Yeah, I think I would because I think Baker Mayfield is a very talented quarterback. I don't know if he has the intangibles. He's good. He's very talented, but I don't know if he has the exact intangibles to be that guy.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I will say that I have noticed is another word considering clutch. He plays well with his money on the line. Because, if the Browns drop him, I can't imagine another team picking him up. If he doesn't work in Cleveland, you don't got to be that. You don't have to be that good to work in Cleveland, right? Yeah. At least in past. Huh. So I can't imagine another team picking him up. So I think he sees it the same way and figures, hey, I got to play better. Mm-hmm. or I'm not getting my bag. I'm not getting my money.
Right.
So I think he plays well with the money on the line. And that's going to be very important during playoff time. But when it comes to these little seeding games, especially this week against the Giants, it's going to be really crucial for him to play well, even though it seems like a gimme win. Because, the Giants have proven that they can be pretty good. So we'll see this week. But I think Baker, so far, through the past few weeks, can definitely be described as clutch.
And you mentioned that game against the Giants, Logan. Browns in New York for these next two away games. They'll be playing against the Giants this upcoming Sunday, December 20th, 8:20 p.m. is game time. You can watch the game, ladies and gentlemen, on live on the NFL Network. The Browns will be at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey for a matchup against the Giants, and then they'll be in MetLife Stadium again, this time different colors. They'll be taking on the Jets. That'll be your traditional 1 o'clock Sunday start times on December 27th. So, Logan, overall, Browns in the standings, if we look at them in the AFC North, Browns are still second in the division. Steelers at the top. Looks like they're definitely going to be clinching that division. They have a record of 11-2, the Steelers do, but they've lost their last two games. So, Steelers are showing some rust, if you could say. Browns 9-4. They're 4-2 on the road, 5-2 at home. To me, Logan, with these next two games in New York, I'm smelling 2 wins right now for Cleveland. I think these will definitely be 2 wins that'll help their record, because you look at the NFC East, I mean, it's honestly, to me, a joke. Washington is in first place, the Washington football team, 6 wins and 7 losses. The Giants are in second with a record of 5-8. And then, we all know how terrible the New York Jets are. So to me, Logan, when I'm looking at this New York trip, I'm thinking 2 wins for the Browns. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you look at the Browns on paper, look at their record, and you look at the teams that they're playing, you should smell victory. And if you don't, then something's wrong. But at the same time, I bet you a lot of people were smelling victory with the Jags game. Yeah. And we've seen the Browns not play well against these far inferior teams that are not talented.
Yeah.
These teams that aren't very good. I think that the Browns struggle against them, and I don't have a definitive answer as to why, but they just do. It seems that Baker doesn't know that he's supposed to be an elite quarterback against these better teams, against these not as good teams as, a team like the Ravens.
Yeah, you mentioned...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned that Jags game, Logan, a game I can also remember. I talked about it earlier in the episode, that Cincinnati game in Cincinnati. I mean, the Browns had to claw in the final seconds of that game to get the win. So I can definitely see what you mean with the Browns, underperforming against worse competition. But continue on. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and I don't want to, say that they're going to win the game, because that's how you jinx yourself.
Right.
I do think that the Browns are going to win this week, the next 2 weeks, but I can't say definitively, because they just have so poorly underperformed against teams of this caliber. So.
Yeah. So Logan, Browns Giants Sunday 8:20 p.m. For this week's Browns coverage. What are your predictions for this game? I know you usually give maybe like a score prediction. What are your initial thoughts right now?
This Giants game upcoming, I would really like to see Baker play well, and I think that is going to happen this week. I don't think the running game is going to have an issue, as they haven't all year long.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably take the Browns 31-14 is my score. I think that the loss of Saquon Barkley has really hurt this Giants offense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge believer in Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones. I'm just not a fan. I don't think he's very good, and I think he's very underperformed this year compared to what they thought he might do.
Yeah.
So I think the Browns defense is really the D-line is really going to pick this group apart. And then, the offense, I think the running game is going to run all over this defense. And then, I'm interested to see what Baker does. I think he's just going to have a chance to really sit back and just make the simple throws.
Right. So definitely this will be a good win for the Browns if they can get it, because then they'll be at a record of 10-4. They'd get their 10th win of the season. Well, Logan, that concludes our episode of the Cleveland Sports Show this week. Thank you so much for joining me. So happy to have the Cavs back, and the Browns season still going strong. We haven't had any real schedule change problems with the Browns, despite COVID-19. So if you're a Browns fan, you've got to be happy about that. Logan, have a wonderful weekend. Have a great Christmas. Wish you and your family happy holidays, man.
You as well.
Thanks so much. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our episode of the Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you. Listening to the show. I want to share something with you, though, because you're probably wondering, Darius, that was the best thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I love it when you and Logan talk with each other about sports. It's so much fun, and I really want to listen to more. Well, guess what? I have the answer for you. Let's get started. So if you're on NordoniaHills.News, make sure you go to the Contributors tab. My name is the third one down. It's Darius Sethna, spelled Darius Sethna. Once you click on my name, you'll be able to get all of my episodes of the Cleveland Sports Show, as well as some art. As if you scroll down even further, you'll be able to see some articles I wrote over the summer. I had a chance to do some player bios over the COVID-19 quarantine time. Also, we have the Cleveland Sports Show on Twitter. Make sure you go and check out my Twitter handle at Nordonia Sports. My name is spelled DARAYUSSETHNA. I'm so happy to announce that the Cleveland Sports Show is also on Spotify. Just type in my name, once again, spelled DARAYUSSETHNA. And the Cleveland Sports Show, finally, another source for you to get it is on YouTube. Just type in my name. You know how to spell it, I would hope, by this point. Type in Cleveland Sports Show along with that, and then type in the episode number you're looking for, and you should be able to access the Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Special thanks to Logan Purcell as well. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. I will see you for our next episode. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, take care. Have a safe holiday season. Thanks, everyone.